Aubrey, our podcast is helping people get higher IELTS scores. We heard this from a YouTube subscriber.
We love when you guys leave us a comment, a message to let us know the scores you got on IELTS. It's so motivating and encouraging for us to know that what we are doing is helping, is working. We
Yes.
love it.
Yes, exactly. So thank you to Righteous Flame for telling us your recent IELTS scores. So we're gonna read this so you guys can hear what scores you could get also because you're listening to us, and then we're gonna dive into a very interesting question about the non-verbal habits and how we can use our hands, our eyes, our face to punctuate what we are saying on IELTS speaking and still increase those scores and just look and seem more natural on the speaking exam. But let's read this amazing review first. Aubrey, can you read that from Righteous Flame?
Yes. Hello, Aubrey and Jessica. I've been subscribing to your channels for nearly 2 months now and couldn't
Cool.
express myself well enough about how grateful I am with your mind blowing, not just IELTS content, but also general English too. I'm excited
Yay.
to tell you guys about my IELTS scores. I aced with an 8 overall. That is amazing.
Clap, clap, clap.
Congratulations.
That's
I love it.
incredible.
All of this would
Yeah.
not have happened without your wonderful videos. I love the energy, the positive atmosphere that you guys created in the podcast. Awesome. Thank you so
Yay.
much for letting us know. I love hearing that. Yes, it's all worth it, right? You guys are getting the
Totally.
scores you need on IELTS.
Yes. So, guys, you are in the right place with us. If you're watching us here on YouTube or here on the podcast, hit follow right now, guys, because every episode we give you vital information that increases your IELTS scores. So, we have a question today from another YouTube subscriber. Thank you to Kiarish Karami for asking this question. Kiarish says, I shake my hands too much while speaking, probably because I'm an absolute extrovert. I love that.
Me too, Kiarash. You and I, solidarity there. I use my hands all the time and I'm a total extrovert.
That's awesome. I use my hands a lot and my face and all of it, even though I'm not an extrovert.
Right.
So there's that to chew on. Okay. So Kiarash goes on to say, so I was wondering if this affects my score. That's a very interesting question.
Yes, and we have talked about this in the past a little bit,
A little
talking
bit. Yeah.
about gestures, eye contact in a video that you can find on our blog or on our YouTube page called 3 Successful Nonverbal Habits of High Scoring Speaking Candidates. You definitely want to check that out to get more information about what gestures should you be using? Is it okay to be using gestures? Spoiler
Mhm.
alert, yes. Don't
Yes.
keep yourself from making gestures. It might be harder for you to speak like me. You see my hands going crazy. I don't know if I could even talk if my hands weren't moving.
That's awesome. I know Aubrey does have some classic hand gestures. I hope you guys watch this on YouTube because one of my favorite hand gestures that Aubrey does, Aubrey like frames herself like this sometimes. Like, so what we're getting at today, guys, and we're gonna give you a ton of examples, like very specific ways you can use this on IELTS, and what they mean, these different gestures, because I like to think of these gestures as punctuation, right? They highlight things that we're saying. They provide context to things that we're saying. And so Aubrey does this cute like framing of her face. If you're like doing like a self-deprecating, like I'm saying something cute, but it's not cute type thing. And so like
Totally.
this is how much meaning hand gestures can have. And if you stop yourself from doing this on IELTS, you are cutting off part of your personality. You are cutting out what makes you you when you communicate. And that will hurt your score if you like keep yourself in a little box like that, right?
Yes, with your arms pinned at your sides. So
Right.
Kiarash and everyone else out there who has ever wondered this will not hurt your score to be using hand gestures, to be moving your hands. It's not a problem. But like Jessica mentioned, there are a lot of gestures that do convey meaning and they punctuate what you're saying. And if the gestures you're making aren't matching the meaning of what you're saying, that can be
Right.
distracting for the examiner,
Yeah.
might even throw you off and what
Yeah.
you're trying to say. So we're going to dive into some of these gestures, what they mean, and give you some amazing examples for IELTS answers that you would want to link these gestures with.
This is so fun. Okay, we have 6 different gestures and examples for you today, guys. So let's dive in here. The first is just a clap. Like that, a clap. So we clap when we're like introducing something that is surprising or something that's very exciting, right? Something that's positive that you literally want to clap for. So here's an example, okay? It's a part 1 answer about cooking, right? So I could say, I am usually a horrible cook, but last night I tried this recipe for chili. I followed it to the letter. Special habanero peppers and everything. And it was amazing.
Nice. So good. I love that bonus phrase of to the letter, which means exactly. I followed it to the letter. I often do this gesture when I say, like, oh my gosh, and I'll clap. I mean, oh my gosh, clap my hands in front of my face, right?
Yeah.
This, just like you said, it just introduces that you're joyful about something or something was a little surprising.
I like this if you're oh, excuse me, my throat got weird for a second. If you're introducing a part 2 answer that you're excited about, like you take your notes, right? And the examiner says, Can you start speaking now, please?" And you're like, "Ooh, I'm so excited to talk about this topic."
Yes, I love that. And what a fun way to really get engaged and get excited about this answer and pull the examiner in. I love that as a start
Totally.
for a part 2. Yeah. All
So
right. Number
fun.
2 here, crossed arms. Very different from the clap, right? If someone has
It's
their
like the
arms
opposite.
crossed, it's the opposite. It shows frustration, maybe anger or disappointment. So this is the first tip here is to not have your arms crossed throughout your entire speaking exam because it likely is going to keep you from really sharing personal details and sharing, speaking really fluently because you're closing yourself up to having that really fluent English. But you
Totally.
can cross your arms to emphasize something.
Yeah, to emphasize something frustrating, something bad, right? So, for example, oh, guys, you should really watch this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Go to IELTS Energy TV on YouTube so you could see these gestures. Okay. So, for example, you're talking about your job in part 1. You could say, I could not believe I didn't get the job. Oh, I crossed my arms. I was utterly disappointed. And then as soon as you're done saying it, you uncross your arms because that feeling is past, right?
Exactly. I love this one. Definitely use it too. It's also going to pull out more interesting intonation. Like Jessica, when she's like, I was utterly disappointed because you're physically showing that disappointment.
Mhm.
And so it's
Mhm.
going to boost your intonation as well.
100%. Okay, so Karashi said that specifically they wave their arms a lot, right? So can we do that, and where should we do that on IELTS?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I move my hands a lot, kind of wave my arms anytime I'm sharing anything interesting. I feel like it sort of
Yeah,
adds engagement. So this is
totally.
a little more versatile, a little more
Yeah,
flexible,
for sure.
where your hands can just be just like mine are right now, just because you're talking, right? So you might
Yeah,
here's an example answer. You might say, and the hotel was chaos, and I just have my hands up, right? This incoming typhoon warning had everyone in a tizzy. And then I might almost do jazz hands, like to emphasize
totally.
the motion of the people in a tizzy. There were pool attendants, and now I'm sort of gesturing this way and that way. There were pool attendants over there throwing furniture inside. There were guests over here crying because the airport was closed, right? So now I'm waving my arms to sort of indicate where people were in this story that I'm telling.
Exactly. I think this is perfect for speaking part 2, right? When you do dive into a story, and you're making it present. You're like almost acting out some of it, right? For the examiner. So the examiner is imagining you like pointing to the people and like gesturing and creating this whole environment and context around what you're saying. So I think this could really help your story in part 2, honestly. And
Absolutely.
now let's move on to the apathetic shrug emoji. This is a great way to punctuate something that you're like annoyed with or disappointed with or something you're just like I don't know. I can't imagine talking without shrugging,
I know I
honestly.
shrug a lot for sure. Anytime I'm, don't know about something, disappointed, or if I feel helpless about something, you just kind of give
Yeah.
that like shrug of
Yeah.
your shoulders.
Totally. So here's an example. Maybe you're asked about your favorite restaurant in part one, right? And you could say, like, oh, it was such a bummer when my favorite restaurant closed its doors, but shrug emoji. I mean, you could say that, but
You
I'm
could
just
say that.
saying that for the listeners.
You're, like,
So
narrating your shrug.
I
Shrug.
know. This is an audio medium if you're not on YouTube, so it's a tough topic. All right. So I'll shrug and be like, "But what are you gonna do?"
What are
Um,
you gonna
I
do?
I like that as a conclusion if, like, you don't know what else to say, just be like, "Nah, what are you gonna do?"
I say this all the time. I say
Totally.
this a lot when it's like I was helpless, there was nothing I could do. I'll just be like, "What are you gonna do?"
Yep, exactly. And so here is something that's just on the face and not with the hands or shoulders, and eye roll. We all roll our eyes all the time. And yes, you can do this on IELTS. Again, it's great emphasis, it's great punctuation for saying something that, expresses annoyance. Like, okay, here's a good example. I always try to be punctual and I hate it when people are late. So when I said hate, I did a little eye roll, right? And then you can roll your eyes again when you're like, it drives me crazy. I'm like, why can't you just be on time?
And the hand right there, like, "Why can't you just be on time?"
So many eye
So
rolls. There
good.
was like 4 eye rolls in that example just there.
For sure. I sometimes will sort of roll my eyes with my whole head. I'm, like,
Yeah.
rolling my eyes in my head to really make the eye roll emphatic.
That's what little kids do. It's like when little kids try and do adult gestures and they try to wink, but they end up closing both eyes, right? And it's like, I
Yes,
used to make
naughty.
James do that. Like, I was like, roll your eyes. And it's like his whole baby head would just like move around in a circle. Okay.
I love
What's
it.
the, what's the last one today?
All right, the last one is sort of slapping your hand to your forehead or putting your hand to your forehead, which is usually used for shock.
Yeah.
So, for example, you might say, "So I woke up super early at like 3 a.m. to get to the airport by 6. I live in the middle of nowhere, so it takes 2 hours to get there. And I was super prepared, packed the night before, used a checklist, had everything. Then I go to check in and I didn't have my passport. So I slapped my hand to my forehead right before I said I didn't have my passport. So it's sort of a way to build interest, to build like what happened, right? We face palm to forehead,
It's
and
so
then
good. It's
say
so
what
good.
happened.
And I really do think like you said, it's really true. All of these gestures, guys, they do improve your pronunciation. They do free you up to be expressive and moving your body just how you do naturally, right? It relaxes you and makes you feel like yourself and it does improve your pronunciation, guys. Okay, this has been super fun. Please go watch this on YouTube. Go to IELTS Energy TV. This is episode 1377. So check it out, guys. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow here on the podcast. And that's it for us today. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.